Ooh, welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on my show for the fourth time, that's right, the fourth time, drag queen superstar. And something new since the last time I had you on, published author of Tipping is a Must. And we will definitely be getting into that. I can't wait to talk about that book. But I have on Trixy, the beautiful Valentine. How
Hi,
you doing,
hello.
Trixy?
I'm good. How are you, Scotty? Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back. I can't believe it's been 4 years since we've done this, and I don't know. It's I remember the first episode till now. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Absolutely. I can't wait. You're my I had a couple interviews, I think one, maybe two of them during spring break. And I always have you on in June for Pride Month because Pride Month is a very important thing to be celebrating and be talking about. And especially some of the questions I have are repeats from the past interviews because those that haven't seen my past interviews with you but come across this one should know the importance of these questions because it's an educational type of question. These are things that people don't know what the importance of this month is, but when they come across this interview and they see it, then they get educated, and that's how we inform people of its importance. So
Hmm.
yes. So here's my main refresher that I like to ask. What is the meaning of pride?
Uh, I feel like I change my answer every year, while at the same time I give the same answer every year, which the meaning of pride is the understanding of how LGBTQIA plus individuals are constantly and have historically needed to fight for their rights, fight to exist, fight to just end the hatred and discrimination that is against them based off of their gender identity or sexual orientation. And Pride started as a right, and now it's a celebration for some, it's a party for others. But I want to always remind people of Pride is here for a necessity to exist, and a necessity to constantly be pushing back against the hate that's on our community.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about, and this, like I said, another refresher, but you mentioned about the LGBTQIA plus community. What do those letters stand for? Because I know there's some people that might be watching this that say the alphabet, thing. And yeah, it is an alphabet thing, but it's of importance and they all stand for something and represent not just something, but someone. So what are
Yeah,
they?
yeah. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, queer, asexual, intersex, and then there's, pansexual, two-spirit, and so many more that are within the acronym. And we even put a plus at the end because there's so many identities out there. And my biggest thing that I've been reminding people of the number one question, like, why are there so many letters? And it's because there are words and understandings towards our identities that were used in the past to harm us, and such as like the term homosexuality, like being a homosexual, that has such stigma behind it because it was in the DSM as a illness. It was recognized within the mass media papers for when the HIV epidemics came down, and like there was this stigma of illness again coming up. And so, having the right terminology, understanding the words here is because we're acknowledging how far we've come and acknowledging our truth. And when we are articulating who we are being intentional about what impact we have and not just saying whatever we put out there that could harm someone.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, one of them is queer. A lot of people use queer as a derogatory term, and I've heard it plenty of times even before it came out. So I guess my question is, how did we take back that word and make it something positive instead of something negative?
Yeah, so I would say it's starting becoming more of a reclaimed word around the millennial generation. The use of media and the internet started coming up, and people wanted to reclaim that power, reclaiming words that were used against us to support us to create a way of how we understand queer. Because the original term for queer just means odd or strange, and then it was used to our community as a weapon to degrade us. And then our community was like, we're actually going to retake that and we're going to use that as identity. And sometimes we look at queer theory, queer art, queer existence, and we use it as an empowering term to uplift us rather than tear us down.
Absolutely. So regarding, and when you're answering this question, there's another thing I thought of. I just saw, I didn't even put it in my question because I just saw it right before you hopped on, and I'm gonna look that up quick. I know who posted it, so that's gonna be my next question. But the one that I do want to ask first is that this really does annoy me because I know what the meaning of pride is, and I know why, why it's celebrate it. And a lot of people say, why is there no straight pride? So can you give people why there is no straight pride? Just explain to them why saying that is kind of insulting.
Yeah, so when there's an acknowledgement to why there's no straight pride, I kind of sit there and go, that means you don't actually know the reason for pride or why we have it. Because pride isn't a let's show off in the sense of like we love ourselves, we have an ego, and it takes us back to, you know, pride is about dismantling and recognizing the discrimination towards us, the hatred towards us. Pride is about resilience in fighting back. And straight individuals or people who are heterosexual or cisgender, society already infuses who they are. We have the concept around heteronormativity and cisnormativity, which is the normalization that people should be assumed straight, people should be assumed cisgender, and this assumption's already there, and that's where privilege comes in because people who are heterosexual can hold their partner's hand. They haven't had a history of where they've been attacked because of who they love or who they are attracted to. They haven't been murdered because they of how they present or dress. So when I hear why is there no straight pride, it's like just be lucky that you don't need to have to constantly be visible and tell people like we're here because we exist. I mean, last year alone was the highest record in America of anti-LGBT legislation introduced into our legislation. And so I believe it was over 520 that were introduced. And I think 120-ish, I'm kind of remembering my numbers a little bit, were actually passed to literally harm and or restrict or hurt LGBTQIA plus individuals. And so that alone right there, that's not history. That's only last year. Like,
Yeah.
so when we think about it in that context,
Yeah.
the need for pride is still here. And the reason why we
Right.
don't have straight pride is for the simple fact of they're not the ones getting things taken away from them or trying to be reduced or erased.
Right. And that's where the reason why I asked that is because I couldn't remember exactly how this went, and I wanted to look this up because my friend posted it, and I knew this was going to expand on that question. One thing about pride is, remember, pride is important because someone tonight still believes they are better off dead than they are being gay.
Yeah.
And that is true. I mean, look how many kids are bullied or are afraid to come out and they kill themselves.
There's from what I've read related to like the Trevor Project and some of these national organizations, the violence is going up. I mean, I live in Pennsylvania, and only a few counties below me in 1 year they had unfortunately 4 LGBT youth members unalive themselves in 1 year.
Wow.
In 1 year, that's insane. And so because those kids, those youth they thought it was better off being dead than alive because it was
Yeah.
hard or because of whatever their situation was. And pride does that. It allows us to unite and show like times will get better. You are not alone. There's an entire community. And we at times act as a unit to fight against these things. The problem is Pride only happens a lot once a year. It's June month. And I always have to remind people all the time, like, this is 24/7 for us. Like, this is my life every single day. I mean, it doesn't look this good every single day, but my queerness existing is
Yeah.
305 days a year.
Mhm.
And so some people unfortunately have those downtimes and have those times where they feel isolated and scared and unsure and they don't know who to go to or who to reach out to. And it's important to have pride. It's important to have those organizations. It's important to have people like you and I to even just relate to for anyone.
Right. And then somebody commented on a post. I don't remember who posted it. It might have even been one of those like, news posts or whatever, like from the news companies and that. But they said something like, what about the military? The military should have a month. And I responded to that and I said, actually, and I forget exactly how I worded it because I did research on it before I did, but it was something about the military has an entire month in May. And then they said,
It
okay,
is.
then what about straight month? Well, be glad you don't have a straight month. You can have that the other 10 or 11 months because we get 1 month. You don't have to celebrate at all because you aren't being, killed or bullied or, made to feel lower and beneath each other. You didn't have to fight for your rights to get married. I mean,
Right.
you can
Well,
get
they're
married
not.
to anybody you want.
It's they didn't have to fight the rights to get married, to not be fired in the workplace,
Hmm.
to actually be able to see medical providers without judgment or being harmed because there's wrong diagnoses put up there because they're not being listened to.
Absolutely.
The school education of being able to have the proper education, specifically around sex education, that allows us to understand what happens and where it goes and how to stay healthy and risk free. Like
Yep.
there is so much that talks about for the left talks about the level of ignorance that's happening when we hear statements like that because you're right, military is the month of May, military awareness and is the month of May. They also have Veterans Day, they have Memorial Day, and they have so many other days actually throughout the month. It's not, if somebody wants to say why not this, not that, it's probably because they didn't do the research to know what actually exists out there. There's so many months and awareness months. It's what do we take acknowledge and what do we make awareness for the reason of it. Like I tell people all the time, like does anyone know the other months and like what comes up for them? Like July is Disability Awareness Month.
Yeah.
March is Women's History Month.
Yeah.
February is Black History Month. There is between October and September is Hispanic Heritage Month, right?
Mhm.
And November, I believe, is Native American
Yeah.
Heritage Month. There is so many like
Yes.
awareness out there, and people are just focusing on this one thing, thinking we're making a big deal out
Yep.
about it. But it's like we are going to make a big deal. We're going to make
Yep.
the recognition to show like we have been mistreated differently. Our lived experiences that alone can say that. But if we actually look at the real history books, the real history books that tell the real history of queer people, we
Absolutely.
can see how we've been mistreated. It's not a secret. It's just the fact that we don't teach it.
Yeah, and so like if you look at all the months that have dedicated, like for example, Black History Month in February, and you mentioned Native American History Month and Pride Month and even Disability Month. Like these are people that are minorities, people that do get bullied and chastised, and when they're just walking down the street and they're walking a certain way that doesn't look masculine and they get side-eyed. Like these are the people. These are why we have these months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These are why we have these months because people, and like you said, people don't do their research. And that's the same thing. And this, I'm going into this, segueing into this conversation where the same thing with, STDs and HIV. I remember when me and you first met a long time ago, like at least over a decade ago, we met and I remember, I mentioned like, are you clean type of thing? And you said, sweetie, there's HIV doesn't mean it isn't dirty. And when you told me that, I'm like, wait, he actually has a point about that. Oh, and like you actually educated me without trying to. I don't know if that's the right word, but you actually educated me about that. And the fact, did we lose you?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay. So the fact that you educated me about that is, and then I agreed with that. Like I'm like, you have a good point about that. So people that that they need to do their research about this because there's things that you need to actually research and put your homework into before actually going off behind a keyboard and being a keyboard warrior, because there is plenty of things you don't know about HIV that, I mean, you can live a very, very, very normal life with HIV and be regularly treated and all that. Like it doesn't make you dirty. It doesn't make you any less human.
Right. The level of lack of education that's around some of these keyboard warriors or where things are makes me just sit here and go, like I feel bad, but also thank you for keeping my job stable because as a queer inclusive sex educator and DEI specialist, like
Mhm.
I sit here and go, why is your education needed? Example A. Like here, this is just the basic stuff. Like this isn't even the intermediate or advanced level stuff we're talking about. This is if we just took 2 seconds to boop, boop, boop.
Hmm.
Done. Done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Google's the thing, and with the access of smartphones and the access of tablets and the access of the internet, there's no reason or excuse to not do a 2-second Google search before running your mouth or typing something behind a keyboard and trying to sound tough. Because you don't sound tough, you sound ignorant.
Right. Or at least lean into curiosity. I don't know how
Yeah.
many times I've had people just go like, I honestly have a question and I don't know how to ask it. And like
Mhm.
that's where my
Yes.
expertise comes. And I go ahead, ask it. I'm the person you could ask, and I will answer in the most honest and authentic way. Because
Yeah.
in the same conversation we're having, so many people are like, I'm afraid to go and find out the answer because I'm afraid to offend somebody. And that's a real mentality for some too. And I'm like, you're gonna fear offending someone instead of embracing what knowledge you can
Right.
learn. That's a whole different mindset in its own in this
Mhm.
conversation.
Absolutely. And that the same goes as into the next segue, pronouns. People see somebody that may look like a man and they assume they are a he or a she, but they could be a they, or they could be, it doesn't matter. Like if you don't know, use the name. If you don't know the name, ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. It's respectful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just literally just talked about the normalization of pronouns because there's a conversation that goes around once in a while. It's like who's really the one that should be in charge of what pronouns? And I say, unless you need to know who I am, I don't need to go out of my way to give you my pronouns unless I
Exactly.
feel like it's just that simple.
Right.
Because if someone really needs to know, ask,
Yeah.
just ask. It is not hard, but also we can tell our pronouns too. Like I know when I introduce myself, like today right now I'm Trixie Valentine. My pronouns are she, her. But so many individuals leave it up to just trans, non-binary, or queer folk to just be the only ones that acknowledge their pronouns when anyone can acknowledge your pronouns. Anyone can talk about pronouns. Pronouns is not a new thing. We learn pronouns in second grade when we're going over grammar. Like it is just the replacement of a noun, right? So
Right.
if it's a pronoun, it's because it's replacing a noun. And so it's not new. This isn't a new
I
thing.
was gonna
It's
say a
simply,
lot of people I see say that what's up with these pronouns making a rise now? I'm like, have you not been in elementary school? I remember learning about not just pronouns but nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives. I mean, it's not a new
subject.
thing.
Not. It's really not. And the only understanding is we, as an LGBTQIA plus community, is highlighted that some pronouns like he and she are gendered. And then we have gendered language.
Yes.
And what is gendered language does is but makes an assumption of who a person is and how they exist. It also highlights the monarchy of like even sexism because for a while almost everything just had the word man, right?
Yeah.
Congressman, mailman, fireman, policeman. Now
Hmm.
it's police officer, right? We took out certain languages so it can be just equal in understanding. Not just this doesn't even impact LGBTQ individuals. It also impacts other communities now when we start talking about it. And but we want to get so hung up that one community just called it out and said, "Yeah, we need to stop doing this. It's problematic."
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. Completely agree. So before we go in, let me see. Actually, I do have another question. So okay, so how do you prepare for your drag shows and how do you come up with these looks and performances? Because that's gonna go into my next question.
Well, so I will say, congratulations to myself because this year marks 10 years of drag. I know
Right?
big,
Woo!
like it's weird. It's so weird. I was like, I've been doing drag for a decade, for
I
one decade.
remember when you actually just started doing drag, and I started seeing you like, and I remember you were still very new. You weren't as
Mhm.
good and as fabulous as you look now.
Yes. Oh, she looked busted. I hope nobody ever looks up pictures of what I looked like back then. It was not, it was ugly, rotted. But now, right now though,
Yes.
I just, when I think about getting ready for shows, I don't know. I've been doing drag for so long that it's like the
Mhm.
back of my hand. I just know all the information, know what to do. But you know, I sit down and I go, what kind of concept I want to do and want to think about. And like I'll use one of my favorite numbers that I did. I did a Jake from State Farm number.
Nice.
And because out of drag, my name is Jake. And everyone is like, you wear khakis because of that commercial. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make some fun of this. I'm gonna make a number off of this. And so I literally made a number. I'm wearing a red polo with khakis. I have a whole thing that's comical. It's there. And I think one thing I learned about drag is do the stupid thing. Do the
Hmm.
thing that people laugh as much as, I mean, I know how to do splits, death drops, high kicks. I know how to make it look good if I need to. But at the one thing I love about drag is I have to make it authentic. I have to make it authentically. I have to be me. I hate I shouldn't say I hate. The one I learned about this when I learned how to step into myself, which was about I would say about 5 years ago. I'd say it was 2017. Well, that's a little bit more than 2017, 2018. So 5 to 6 years ago when I stepped into myself, because that is when I was like, I'm just gonna do the things that I want to do. And I did a Pokemon number. I did, a Lion King number, and I started getting into, I was like, these are the things I love, and I just have to create an art form for them. So for drag, getting into drag, I know this past weekend when I was doing a local pride, I wasn't supposed to be in drag, but everyone was like, "We want to see you in drag. You need to get in drag." I thank God I was only 5 minutes from my house for this pride
Yeah.
because it was one of the local ones. I did my face in 20 minutes. I got an outfit on in 10 minutes, and I showed back up there, and they're like, "You did that
Nice.
in a half hour." I said, "Yeah, that's
Nice.
10 years of drag. That's 10 years of knowing your face, your structure, your muscle memory, and everything."
Nice. Nice. So, what are those things under your eyes, like the sparkly things? They are so pretty.
You like this?
I do. They're
So
pretty.
these are rhinestones,
Okay.
and then the white marks. I what I did was I put a blush on underneath it, and then I just did
Okay.
white liner, so you can give this
Okay.
freckle effect, which is what I wanted to go for.
Nice.
I wanted to kind of give you like a cute person, so maybe some Barbie, some pink, you know.
I love it. Yeah. Oh my God. I was like, I couldn't think of what it was called, and I called it face paint on your lie.
I know. I was like face paint. I might as well just call it finger painting. You know what? I dabbed my fingers in here and put it all over my face. That's what I should have just said was it. But no,
That's funny.
it's freckles, it's eyeliner under.
I love it.
So we just call it painting, not face painting.
There
Face
you
painting
go.
implies
I'm
like
used to wrestling. That's probably what I was getting it from because I'm used to professional wrestling. I'm a big wrestling fan. And
mhm.
they wear the face paint and that. And that's just the first thing that came to my mind. But I do have to show you this because it is a real thing if you didn't know, but I do have it.
Yes, the 7 Up
I have the Seven Up
chapstick.
chapstick. I had to show you that.
I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. When you were like, I have a 7 Up chapstick, I was like, my new accessory needs to be a 7 Up chapstick.
I got it for Christmas the one. This is like from 2 years ago at Christmas, and I don't use my lips only get chapped really, and I think it's in the winter they usually get chapped like the fall winter, and so I don't use it that much. Just for that season, and for Christmas I got like a big pack of soda chapsticks, and it had like orange soda, grape soda, 7 Up, Sprite, everything. Mountain Dew.
And here we are with 7 Up.
So that's pretty cool. But now let's get into some really cool stuff.
Okay, let's
Outside
get
of
it.
you, obviously, because you're the coolest drag queen I've ever met.
You must not meet many drag queens. I'm just kidding.
And I love
No,
your sass, by the way. I do love your sarcasm. I love that's one thing I've always loved about you is your sarcasm. But you're also an author. How cool is that?
I am. I'm an author of a book, Tipping is a Must. I'm actually working on two books at once right now. One of them's a little bit serious. Well, actually, they're both serious, but one's very serious. But
Nice.
this was my fun one. I was like, I've always wanted to be an author, and I decided to put something together. And it's Tipping is a Must, 100 tips for a drag show. And here's why. I got tired of drag performers, drag producers, audience members. I would get all these questions in my DM, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I was like, oh my gosh. So I literally thought about like all the questions I could possibly be asked or what it was about or all the things I feel like I'm repeating myself about. And so I put all my thoughts there and said, we're gonna call it Tipping is a Must, which is like it's not really a must. It's like a play on words of
I was
of
just
drag
thinking that it's
queen
the play on
persona.
words. Yep. I love it.
Mhm. And so, because everyone's like, what are you going to name your book? I was like, Tipping is a Must. It's like, you don't have to tip a drag queen. You don't, but you have to buy this book. And so it then led to these 5 sections of like backstage etiquette. So the book is it could be for anyone. I did want to center drag personas and drag queens and drag kings and drag performers because they need to know. I get so many that want me to put them in drag and stuff. I was like, you should probably read these tips first before you do. Or I had so many people go, why am I not getting booked? And I'm like, here's a book. You should read why you might, because you'll probably find the answer in there.
Mhm.
And I just got tired of being the queen that was like, why are we all keeping a secret? Just tell this person why they're not getting booked so they can get better.
Yeah.
And so then I found out the people who are buying this book are the fans of drag. So many people who are just like, I want to learn more about drag. I want to learn how to put drag shows on. And then that still helped them out because there's even pages and chapters in here where it talks about venue owners and producers and drag producers who are like, how do I put on a drag show? And I'm like, well, out of my experience, I've been to many different events. Like I've had producers be like, can we pay you in food? I'm like, no, you can pay me in cash. Cash works because I'm not taking anything less.
Right.
And so when I think about some of my experience did go into this book, and it has a level of sarcasm in there too. So the way
Nice.
it's not written in a way that's very serious. It's all comical. Like the
Right.
tips have humor to them. Like tip number 31 is probably one of my favorite tips. And it actually has to do with my twin Harvey Daniels, and it literally just says like wash your ass, and then like goes into the
Nice.
details. Good hygiene and having good hygiene as a drag performer and audience member, and like, and some people like this is a really great tip, and I was like, yeah, I'm saying the quiet part out loud. You need to bathe before you come to a show.
And it's funny that it's such a common sense thing, but it's lacking the common sense thing because what I go to a lot of horror conventions and we always have to tell people before you go to the lobby and start meeting guests and mingling with people, put on deodorant and take a bath, take a shower, something, put deodorant on, put on some cologne, smell good because you're in a place that's swarming with people and it's probably going to be a little warm in there. You're probably going to sweat. So smell good.
Smell good, little spritz.
Yes.
But also just the understanding that like because these are simplistic tips, it's also a reminder. Like these are some good reminders to be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I had a one queen. She came to a drag trivia of mine, and I saw my books at the event. And she goes to the book. She's been doing drag almost as long as I have, and she goes, I forgot about this tip. Like I literally forgot that this was a thing. And the tip had to do with like backstage etiquette and
Mhm.
etiquette, which is like cleaning up after yourself and like putting things back where they belong. And like I'm simplifying the tips. The tips are a little bit longer than how I'm doing it. But she had this huge story of how like she prepared this show, and the venue owner didn't want them back because they didn't clean up after themselves. And I'm like, well, that's on you, girl. Like,
Right. Yeah. It's like the same thing with cooking. Like when you're cooking, you're not going to just leave a mess. You're not going to leave the onion peels there. You're not going to leave the stems of the celery or whatever. Like you're going to throw that away. So like just
right.
clean up your mess when you're cooking. Clean up all, when you're a drag performer. Like it's simple.
And the best part was to even get the message out there. I even started my own podcast related to
Nice. Yep.
the podcast is Glitter on My Tips, and we're supposed to shimmy every time we say it. So Scotty, start shimming. Let's do this. You got to shimmy. There you go. Glitter on my tips. Mhm.
I love
And
it.
I started the podcast to even talk deeper than the tips. And I
Mhm.
invite drag people and people who do drag or go to drag, or even I actually, for the one, I didn't even it's a photographer who takes photography of drag shows, because one of them is have a good headshot.
Mhm.
And so like I brought people on to just even go further deeper, and we talked to an actual photographer who takes photos of drag performers and be
Wow.
like, so like, what's the worst thing you've ever had to go through? And he's even talking about other tips in the book. He's like, yeah, I hate when they're late, and I hate when they always constantly change their mind and they don't have an idea. He's like, I can handle if they don't know how to model, we'll work with that. And I'm just like, it was just a really good episode to learn why it's important
Yes.
to have it and all these other things. And then he got the book and he was just like, yeah, every drag person literally needs this book. And I go, yeah, but probably not. Probably
Yeah.
not.
So I'm gonna throw a little horror into here because one of my favorite drag shows, like actual like entertainment television, you know where I'm going with this, is Dragula. I love Dragula. My partner got me into Dragula, knows I love horror. So I absolutely love Dragula. Would you ever consider going on Dragula?
Have I thought about it? Yes. Would I? I don't know because I'm not a horror queen. Could
Okay.
I do? I actually do love horror.
Hmm.
Because I actually tried out for the Face of Horrors competition. I
Nice.
think I made it to the third round and then I didn't make it after that, which
Oh.
was okay.
Yeah.
But I love horror as a whole. Do I think my drag is horror? No, but do I love challenging myself around it? Yes. My
Okay.
problem with Dragula is I don't know if I could overcome my fear. Like I would be afraid to tell them my fear because they have the exterminations on there and stuff. And I
Hmm.
was like, I would
Yeah.
be looking at the extermination going, "Oh, you can send me home. Yeah, you can send me home. Right now.
Same.
I'm not here for this." Like the one they had to jump out of a plane. I could do that. I was like, sign me up. The other they had to drink blood. I'm like, why not? But then they had one on leeches. I'm like, oh, I'm good. No,
Yeah.
I'm good. No,
Yeah.
I'm out. Like I would look at the producer and be like, we about to be real funny up on this camera because this would be me. I would be sitting there like this.
I can't do ants, let alone leeches. I had an ant in this room the other day and I screamed like a little girl. I hate bugs.
Duh, it just could I do it? I'm sure. Would I win? Nah, I would
Yeah.
not be a winner. But I mean, actually, no, one of the I actually performed in this last season with one of the people. They did not make it. I was Onyx.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I watched that. I loved
Yeah.
Onyx.
Yeah. I've actually performed with them. Like before they
Wow.
even got on the show. They were one of the people I was like, they need to make it on the show because they have such that drag is perfect for Dragula.
Nice.
It's been a long time. Actually, no, I've seen them since they've been off the show once, but it was a long time since I performed with them. But I performed with Onyx like years ago, and I was
Yeah.
just when she made it on, I was like,
Yeah.
I know that's right.
That's
And so it's
awesome.
actually ironic because there are some girls now that I used to perform with for on all these shows. Because even I performed with Safira Cristal, and she just made it onto RuPaul's Drag Race. She got first, alternate, second on the competition. And when she was there, we're all like, she better work. Like I know her. So
Nice.
it's
If you're
pretty.
down for it.
Mhm.
I didn't do it last year because with anybody because I was very busy with school and I'm gonna be busy with school this semester, but I'll make time for it this year. I usually have a special Halloween episode, usually a couple days before Halloween, but I don't release the episode until Halloween. Would you be down to do a Halloween episode with me and we could discuss the importance of, drag and everything like that, but you gotta be in horror, you know.
Yes, I will come up with a horror type of look for you.
Yes.
Um, I'll have to challenge myself. You have
Yes.
to give me a theme though, because horror is so generic, right? Like
Yes.
when I think of horror, if I'm ever in a horror movie, which if anyone's watching and they need a scream queen, please. I don't care if I'm in like the first 10 seconds where I just get murdered. Like that's what I want.
Right.
I want to be the girl that's running, screaming, and like, oh
Yeah.
my God. Now if I have to be the killer, I feel like I would have to be like one of those pretty killers. Like I'd have to be pretty. I'd have to have like a tragic backstory. I like psycho killers. Like
Okay.
they're like you would never, and then I'm over here like I have like no affect in face, and I'm just gonna murder you.
Like, for example, in Mrs. Voorhees, she was a middle-aged, killer, but you didn't know she was really a killer. She looks like a
Right,
normal mother.
right. I don't need to look ugly, ugly. I just need to look basic.
I would
Yeah,
like to. Do you want me to give you a category now, and that way you
yeah. No,
can.
give me a category now.
All
Yeah.
right. How about and you can be creative as much as you want with how you were killed, but you are close to being the final girl. It was you and another girl, but you were the one that got the chopping block. And you got killed
Okay.
brutally, brutally killed. You can come up with the
Okay.
way you were killed, and you can give the story during the episode. Like it?
I love that. That's gonna be so fun. That's gonna be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then,
Yes.
and on top of that, you do have to send me. You know how I do my promo flyer, and then I do my YouTube thumbnail. So you have to give me good pictures of horror based for that.
Yeah.
So if you could like do a small little photo shoot for me and get that for me, that'll be great.
Oh, I love a good photo shoot. I actually have last year, one of my favorite photo shoots. Now this was more sexy than I did a
Mm.
devil look. I did a number called
Yes.
Devil Went Down to Georgia, and that was really fun because I actually do gold fiddle that I do with that number. But I want to do a mad scientist look, which I think will fit perfectly for the episode, the theme, because I'm working on that number. And then I actually have a vampire look. Have I ever done it? Like not a photo shoot, no.
I'm big on witches. Like I love witches, and I don't mean like, the Sabrina witches. I like the, haggy, green skin,
Mm.
pointy hat, riding the broomstick witch. I love that. Like one of my favorite games is Banjo-Kazooie for the Nintendo 64, and the main villain is a witch, Gruntilda, and that's where I came up with my Halloween persona, and I'm Scott Tilda.
I love it. I
Yes.
mean, I can't promise you I'll give you ugly witch, but I could. I can give you older hag witch, but
Okay.
I do like so the witches I like are actually like from American Horror Story, The Coven.
Oh,
That's where I like.
love it. Love it.
Mm.
Yeah, I love American Horror Story. It did get kind of weirder as the seasons went on. I think I like it up to 1984, and then after that, it kind of fell off for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like even like when they were doing the HIV thing and season and everything,
Oh,
to
New
me, it
York,
was more
right? Like
stereotypical.
NYC. That was so.
I
I'm
had to
actually
stop
that
watching it.
I was like, that relates to our topic perfectly because that season, that episode had me. I sat there and I was like, are they playing? Like, there was such deeper meaning I think they were trying to go for that I don't think they executed, which was
Mhm.
the thing of like, it's not HIV that's killing people, it's an actual person, but like referencing HIV as that person and like the psychological stuff behind it. I actually like, I thought it was creative at one point, and then I sat there, I'm like,
No.
sorry, no, it was one of my seasons I watched and I'll never watch again because there were parts of it that we don't have to get into HIV history. There's so much about the HIV history that I
Yeah.
know that I just said
That
they
could be
did.
its own topic in and of itself
Yeah,
for a whole new
they
interview.
did not do a good job to me in
Yeah.
referencing or some of the things. They did a good job with some of the historical context,
Yeah.
but the twists and spins they put on it or tried to put on, just I was like, it didn't hit the mark. It didn't land for me.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like,
And it's a shame because Ryan Murphy himself is gay, and you would think he would have put in more research and more, authenticity into it. I would think it would mean more to him to like actually tell the story.
right. I mean, so one, I mean, I will say it did give a nod to like the kink community, the lesbian
Mhm.
community, the pause or HIV
Yeah.
community. Like there were nods to certain things that I was like, I see what you're trying to do. I just don't think it was executed
Yeah.
the best. The other thing that I think about when I think about like people in the LGBTQA plus community, and to bring it back to our bigger conversation for Pride Month, is not many people know our history. They don't know our history. They don't even know like the meaning of why we do some of the stuff we do. Like even if we looked at hanky code and understanding why there is a hanky code is because at one point in time we couldn't openly talk about what we were into or what we do. And so we designed a color coordination code of
All right.
fabric to help us get through what we wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just it bothers me. Like I have so many friends on Facebook and people even I know personally or I went to high school with, and then I see them posting this hateful stuff, and I'm like, you do realize you're my friend, right? We are actually friends, and you're posting this stuff. Like I'm thinking, do you not realize that I'm gay, that I'm your friend, and you're posting this on your Facebook, even if it's to be funny? Like some things aren't a laughing matter, like.
Yes. Yeah, I always tell people if the joke is at the expense of someone's existence, it
Mhm.
might not be that funny.
Yeah.
There are so many times that I actually get pigeonholed as a, well, you're not like the others. And I'm like, don't other us. I'm still
Mhm.
part of that community, regardless if you think I'm better than them or not. Like, because I don't think I'm better than the other people. I'm part of that community. And if you think I'm a great person, why can't you think other people in the community are
Yeah.
great people? And we all definitely come with our own backgrounds and beliefs, but the actual ability to say we exist in this realm and have people in our circles be like, it's okay because it's you. Like, I do encourage LGBT queer people to like challenge that idea. If you have friends out there who are like, you're okay because we know you, it should be okay for other people, even if you don't know them, because they exist, they're human.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it as if you as a straight person are looking down on the gay community and you don't think they should evolve equality, how would you feel if the script was turned, then tables were turned? How would you feel it if the law stated that you can't get married to your wife?
They honestly probably couldn't fathom.
Yeah.
Most people with privilege or other forms of areas of privilege don't always understand the empathy that we
Yeah.
have, because we a lot of people, it takes time for them to unlearn something and relearn, like,
Yeah.
wow, this could happen to me. But imagine if it could happen to me.
Right.
And taking yourself and putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And that's for any community. That's not even for LGBTQA plus community, like
Mhm.
any community of how someone is
Yeah.
treated. It's one of those, like, can you imagine? Could you imagine?
Yeah.
And I actually did a speech once called Could You Imagine? It was actually last year when I was doing an event for Trans Day of Remembrance. And I said, could you imagine the name of someone you loved on the back of a newspaper or on the front page because they were harmed or unalived or attacked for simply existing? And then I went into the story of all the people who had been on newspapers and stuff, all because of who they loved, or because it was trans visibility, because they were trans. And the whole room was like, that's deep, like that's real deep. We did, because they couldn't fathom there, because I also connected to
Yeah.
it, like where I live in rural Pennsylvania.
Huh.
When I have to tell my story, I tell people all the time, I was like, yeah, I've been chased down by cars twice in my life. In a 10-year gap. When I was 16, I was chased down by a car. And when I was 26, I was chased down by a car. And
Mhm.
I hope when I'm 36, it doesn't happen again. I hope this doesn't happen every 10 years. But
Right.
but the reason why I was chased down by cars was because I appeared and or looked a little feminine. And the only thing I was doing was going out for a jog.
Mhm.
That was it. I had
Yeah.
headphones and just jogging.
And I'll tell people, me and Trixie are from the same area. We are
Hmm.
from the same area, maybe like what, like 30 minutes away from each other. When I live in
Yeah,
Baltimore now, but in Pennsylvania, 30
yeah,
minutes away from each other. And I'll verify everything Trixie has said. Like our area, very homophobic. Now there are some great people and there are some
yeah.
very accepting allies, but the amount of hate over, is bigger than the amount of love.
I will say it has changed a little, just a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but the amount of work I've done here
Mhm.
has at least pushed the needle, and I've
That's
seen
good.
that needle pushed, because um this past year, when my hometown had questionable things that local leaders had to say. I'm trying to be very vague because I'm not trying to paint a picture that's false, but at the same time, I just facts are facts. Is we had a town council member be against a drag show that was here to support our local theater, the
I,
local
I
theater that is,
I know what one you're talking about.
right, a
Yeah.
historical thing. And I had other people. This was the first time I've ever seen this happen, where other people not part of the community finally stood up and said, "This ain't right. This ain't fair." So that is how I know we progressed just
Yeah.
a little. Like if the needle was, because a
Mhm.
similar event only happened 3 years ago, and ain't nobody say anything.
Yeah. There you go. So that is progress. And I
So
mean, yeah.
just a little progress, but it took time.
Yep.
It's taking time. It's taking a little bit too much time for
Yep.
me.
And I
But
will and before we get into the last part of your book, I do want to let everybody know that like if you're against or don't agree with the LGBT lifestyle, first of all, remember it doesn't affect you if it's because they're in their what happens behind their closed doors doesn't affect your life. So that's first of all. Second of all, just think you might have a friend that is struggling with this that you don't know about, and it might be too late to do anything about it if you're doing all that. Like it could be you could have pushed the envelope too much that they feel, oh, I'm struggling with this, you're treating this community like this that I'm a part of, and I'm afraid to tell you, and it's eating me alive, and it'll be too late for you to even rectify and fix that because somebody feels like you're not going to accept them, and the only way out is death, and that's sad.
no, it is sad because um I honestly um have witnessed and seen, and I hear people's stories all the time that look very similar to the example you kind of just mentioned. I even had um one friend who explains like I'm one of the friends that you call, right? Like
Hmm.
everyone's like, we'll call you. And I said, okay, call me if you need anything. But there's the reality of you don't know the impact you have onto someone's life sometimes until it's too late. And that's both good and bad, right? Sometimes we can have a positive impact on someone and not recognize
Hmm.
simply just telling someone, hi, hello, I hope you have a good day, just change the course of their actions of both that day and maybe life. Because I've been there when I've had people hug me and go, actually, I have a quick story.
Go ahead.
Um, Last year, there was a girl who came out as trans. She's I think she's 16 now or she's 17 now. And so she messaged me out of nowhere at like the end of last year, so almost the beginning of this year, and just goes, "Can I tell you something? I follow you and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, no big deal. Do you remember me?" And I saw her, like I looked up her up. I was like, "Oh, I remember you. I met you at so and so's Pride." And they're like, "Yeah, you do know you were the first person in this town to just recognize me as a human being." Do you know how I did that? I had a 5-minute conversation with them and I asked them, like, who did you make up? You look so good. Like, you look so nice. How are you feeling? You feeling good? And it took 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of my time to just have a general conversation, build rapport.
Hmm.
And uh, what I didn't know at the time is she dropped out of school.
Wow.
She wanted to give up on life. She, was like very disappointed in her future. And now she is doing cyber schooling. She's homeschooled. She's looking into art and makeup and she wants to get her cosmetology license. And it
That's
was
awesome.
just because someone took 5 minutes of a general, normal, honest conversation to make sure she felt human.
Yeah, absolutely. And this goes not just for the LGBTQ community, but this goes for anything, anybody. It goes for, checkout clerks, fast food workers.
Mhm.
We're all human beings. Just saying thank you, have a nice day, or wow, you really did a good job, whatever they're doing. Like, just it takes a compliment to make somebody's entire day, because that could be the one time you yell at that person or degrade that person for whatever reason ever could be
Mhm.
the reason why they don't go back to work the next morning and or wake up the next morning.
It's funny that you mentioned that because it's not funny, I should say. It's interesting that you say that because when I think about the work that I do as an educator and I'm teaching leadership and
Mhm.
communication skills to a lot of people, shameless plug if you want me to come do a training through. I don't have to look like Trixie, I can look like me, but I'll give you both. Um, someone goes, I thought you were teaching us about like LGBTQI plus inclusion. And I said, I am. And they made the comment of like, well, you taught us a lot about like interpersonal communication dialogue. And I go, oh, isn't that weird? If we learned how to talk to people and effectively communicate with them, it can be impactful to any community.
Yeah.
Because all the examples they did were all LGBTQA related examples. However, the skill I taught them was simply to just be more empathetic and to
Yeah.
listen, to be kind, and to be um, thoughtful and aware. And all of these things I taught them, this specific individual was just like they took a step back because they were overreaching and over analyzing a situation that
Yeah.
didn't exist. Now, I'm not saying LGBT people don't have their own needs that they have because they do. We do. We all
Mhm.
have them. I teach that too. But in this specific course, I was just teaching them how to effectively communicate.
Yeah. And sometimes proper communication is all you need to either make or break somebody's day. And not only that, but communication, as you mentioned, is appropriate in all communities. The LGBTQ community, it's appropriate in people with disabilities. It is appropriate with, just everyday people you interact with, whether it's in a professional environment, an educational environment, your personal life. Like, everybody you talk to, you're going to be communicating with one way or another.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Like, and having proper communicative abilities and skills will always, like I said, it can make or break somebody's day. And I always think even if I'm in a bad mood, it doesn't take that hard to be nice to somebody that didn't make me in that bad mood.
Right. Accountability and
Yeah.
not to take it out on somebody else. Love
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. So before we wrap this up, I want everybody to go out, pick up a copy of Tipping is a Must. Can you tell them where they can buy a copy?
Well, if you don't come see me in person, because I always have a copy with me no matter what show or where I'm going to be, you can go to Amazon and you just type in Tipping is a Must, 100 Tips for a Drag Show. And typically, if you just type in Tipping is a Must, it's there because I'm the only book that has it. But sometimes you'll get other tipping books that I'm like, mm, book. I mean, I'm also on the front cover, so it's kind of hard to miss.
Yeah,
But you go to Amazon. You could also go to
there
juicywithjake.com.
you go.
Literally just scroll down on the main page. It's right there. Like I have the link for everything up there. You could also check out what I do. Like as a drag entertainer, I don't just do like bars or anything like that. I also do like I do weddings now.
Nice.
And I'm the MC for weddings. I love fun games or bachelorette parties. I did have someone ask me to go to their baby shower, and I was like, I mean, I can, but like, is there gonna be other kids there? And like, oh no, this is an all age baby shower. I was like, my favorite time right now is knowing that I could make really interesting comments and jokes that people are gonna eat it up. So I do it all. I don't just do like it's weird as a drag queen. I'm over here like, yeah, I typically just perform at prides or local bars. And now I'm like, no, I perform at universities, community arts centers, organizations, weddings, bar mitzvahs. I haven't done a funeral yet, but I'm
I
willing
was
to.
gonna ask, did you ever do a funeral? I can
I would.
imagine.
I actually I had somebody last year and I couldn't do it. I was so sad. They were throwing a party to someone who had cancer.
Oh,
And but yes, it was a very sad story. However, this is the most positive thing. They said drag queens are one of the people in their life that has always lifted them up no
yeah.
matter where they've been. And they contacted me because I was one of their favorite drag queens they've ever met to just
Nice.
uplift them. Wanted me to perform for them, one of their favorite, and I couldn't do it at the time, but I did mention to them, I'm like, I can't do it here, but I will literally just come to your house and perform for you. And I last year, I did that for somebody. They hired me to be the drag entertainer in their house. I was in their dining room, performing in their dining room for a book exchange holiday party.
Nice.
And yes, I did bring my book too.
That's awesome. I do have to make this comment because this is actually it has nothing to do with drag or anything, but it's just it was just when you were talking about you do funerals and everything, it just popped into my mind. I get an email every morning of when I get mail sent to my mom's house in Pennsylvania because I live in Baltimore, but I still get mail in Pennsylvania. So I want to know what mail I need to keep up on. So I got something from in Coltmont. So I asked my mom, "Can you open it and read it to me?" It was from Northeast Hearing Institute, and they said, come in and try our hearing aids today. Free trial next week. We hope to hear from you soon. I'm thinking to myself, what the heck?
That's a good, you know what? I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. They probably, yeah, wow.
I'm thinking, what the heck was that? Like, I'm laughing, but I'm thinking, should I be laughing? Because I understand what they're trying to do,
I
but
think
I
it was
don't know.
a mood point. It's a mood point of like, hope to hear from you soon. I was like, are you trying to like advertise the fact that you need me to, I need to come in to hear you or what? I kind of love it, but kind of like,
Yeah, it's one of those like dad jokes that is like, haha, but womp womp.
right. You just try to sit there and go, you tried to do something, didn't you? You really tried to do something here.
Yeah, yeah, and it was one of those things. Like my mom was like looking at it, she's like, "What's going on?" I'm thinking somebody must have signed me up for this or something. Because first of all, how'd they get that address? Like I never went to them. It's like it reminds me of the time that I kept getting monthly subscriptions to GQ magazine, and I never signed up for GQ magazine.
You
I said,
didn't?
Scott, thank you for your annual subscription to GQ magazine. And it says, here's your first of 12 copies for the month. I'm like, wait, what?
I love it. I'm here for it. I am here for it. Um, I love it. I do.
I
Well,
don't
Scotty,
know.
I have to say, I want to say thank you for having me on this
Of course.
episode. Can I do a shameless plug? I'm just gonna
Of
shameless
course.
I'm hi everyone. My name is Trixy Valentine. That's spelled Trixy, because if you don't put the Y in there, you won't find me. Valentine, like your favorite holiday, and I am the single man's holiday. But with that though, thank you everyone. Beyond this, I am an educator in life. I actually am an educator, a real educator. I'm working on my PhD. I just became a PhD candidate. So
Mhm.
starting
Nice.
research.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm exhausted. It's terrible. But I will say there's this beautiful sash behind me.
I was gonna
I am
ask about that.
I know you absolutely can. So I'm the current reigning MX called Mixed Trans New Jersey 2024. I'll be competing in the Mixed Trans Non-Binary pageant. Or it's actually Mixed Trans USA pageant in November. And so this was my state title. I'm a state title holder officially. Super excited for it, super excited to give that representation. And so um if you need more information, you can either find me on Trixie Valentine or juicywithjake.com.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much, Trixie, for joining me. I'm so glad we moved it up a half hour because we are closing in on an hour, and I told you I have that gym that I gotta go to, that darn gym.
You really do. You really do. Same, same.
Yes. All right. Well, you have a great rest of your night, and I will not only see you next year for Pride Month, but I will be seeing you on Halloween.
I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Bye.